Okay, today we are turning what honestly looks like a pretty dense agricultural study into a literal battle to find the absolute perfect diet for our crops. If you care at all about the food you eat, the long-term health of our soil, or the future of global farming, well, you're definitely going to want to see how this plays out. So, to ground our investigation, we're looking directly at a piece of peer-reviewed research from 2023. It was published in the International Journal of Plant and Soil Science by lead researcher Surbi Kumari and her team over at the Naini Agricultural Institute. And they are tackling a growing crisis head-on here. Basically, how do we feed our constantly hungry crops without, inadvertently destroying our environment in the process? Here's our game plan for this explainer. We'll start with the fertilizer problem, meet our organic contenders, and then dive right into the pak choi experiment itself. From there, we'll check out the growth and quality results, unpack a really surprising economic plot twist, and wrap up with some final farming takeaways. Section 1. The fertilizer problem, the hidden cost of chemicals. Right, so we are facing a massive problem with standard inorganic fertilizers, your typical NPK mix. Think of these kind of like a fast-acting vitamin pill. Sure, they give an immediate boost to the plant, but continuous use, it causes some severe environmental hazards. We're talking about nitrate contamination in our groundwater, which can lead to really dangerous conditions like blue baby syndrome. It causes surface runoff that literally chokes out aquatic systems with eutrophication, and over time, it actually reduces the overall fertility of the soil itself. So what's the alternative? Organic manures. Now, these act much more like a highly sustainable, balanced meal. They physically improve the structure of the soil, they act as field residue that farmers can actually sell, and they significantly increase the soil's ability to hold onto water. It seems like a totally clear choice for the environment, right? But the big question we need to answer is, does it actually work as well for the crops? Section 2. The organic contenders. Meet the crop. To figure out which organic solution actually works best out in the real world, the researchers needed a very specific, very thirsty test subject, and they chose pak choi. If you aren't super familiar with it, pak choi is this highly nutritious, non-heading Chinese cabbage. It is absolutely packed with vitamins A, C, and K, and it has this great sweet, mildly peppery flavor. But here's what makes it the ultimate test subject for an agricultural experiment like this. A raw pak choi plant is composed of 95% water, so it requires a massive amount of hydration to grow, especially during late summer. This extreme thirst makes it the absolute perfect, highly sensitive indicator for testing soil quality, water holding capacity, and nutrient uptake. I mean, if the soil isn't perfect, the pak choi simply won't thrive. Section 3. The pak choi experiment, setting the rules. Okay, so with our highly sensitive crops selected, let's see how the researchers actually set up this head-to-head agricultural competition. Now, the study technically tested 9 different treatment combinations, but to keep things focused, we're just pulling out the absolute extremes. Think of this as the tail of the tape before a major boxing match. In one corner, our chemical baseline, labeled T0, using 100% standard NPK chemicals. Then, our pure organic contenders, T2, which is poultry manure applied at a heavy 15 tons per hectare, and T3, vermicompost applied at 10 tons per hectare. And finally, we have the hybrid contender, T5, which is a strategic mix of 75% chemical NPK and 25% farmyard manure. They planted the seeds, meticulously watered them, and let the 45-day battle begin. Section 4, Growth and Quality Results, the clear winner. So, after 45 days of growth, the plants were harvested, the measurements were taken, and the data revealed an absolute powerhouse out in the field. Guys, it wasn't even a close race. Treatment T2, the poultry manure, absolutely crushed the competition. It yielded an incredible 77.17 quintals per hectare. That completely dwarfs the chemical control's meager 52.5 quintals. Vermicompost, it put up a respectable fight in the middle there at 71.30, but poultry manure easily takes the crown for raw yield. And why is that? Well, the researchers point out that out of all the organic manures, poultry manure naturally contains the highest levels of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. But here is the really fascinating part. Poultry manure didn't just produce more food. It produced vastly healthier and tastier food across literally every single quality parameter they measured. It grew the tallest plants at nearly 18 centimeters. It produced the highest number of leaves. But the real magic? That's in the nutritional breakdown. It yielded the highest ascorbic acid, that's vitamin C, at 2.28 milligrams. It had the maximum dietary fiber content, and it even scored highest on the TSS scale, total soluble solids, which basically means it literally grew the sweetest, best-tasting pak choi of the entire bunch. It is a total, undeniable biological victory for pure organic poultry manure. Section 5. The economic plot twist. Best for plant versus best for wallet. But just when you think poultry manure has won the whole battle and, solved farming forever, the researchers introduce a really fascinating economic plot twist. Let's look at the money. Because of its massive, unmatched yield, the poultry manure generated a staggering maximum gross return of 154,400 rupees. At first glance, you might think, okay, case closed right here. Maximum food, maximum health, maximum top-line revenue. But we have to stop and ask a highly practical question. What about the farmer's actual wallet? High gross revenue really doesn't mean a thing if the inputs required to get that revenue are just too expensive. And poultry manure, especially when you're applying it at a heavy 15 tons per hectare, comes with very high input costs. Which brings us to the absolutely crucial question of actual net profit. The money the farmer actually takes home to feed their own family and sustain their business. And here is the twist. The data reveals that it wasn't the pure organic poultry manure that won the financial battle. Not at all. Instead, a hybrid approach. Treatment 5, combining 75% chemical NPK with 25% farmyard manure, actually gave the farmer the highest take-home net profit at 79,560 rupees. It also recorded the absolute highest benefit-cost ratio of all the methods tested. It turns out that supplementing standard chemical fertilizers with just a little bit of farmyard manure is incredibly cost-effective, while still providing a decent enough boost to the soil to improve returns. Section 6. Final farming takeaways. The balanced approach. So, this study leaves us with a brilliant tension between two competing goals in modern agriculture. Think about it. If you want the absolute healthiest, tallest, sweetest, and most robust pak choy, pure organic poultry manure is the undisputed biological champion. It builds the soil, it prevents environmental degradation, and it gives you a magnificent crop. But if you need to optimize your financial efficiency, keep your input costs down, and maximize your actual profit margin, well, a hybrid chemical organic mix is currently the economic winner. The study clearly proves we just don't have a single, unified, perfect solution yet. We have a very serious trade-off between the ideal biological outcome for the planet and the ideal economic reality for the farmer. Which leads us to a final, very provocative thought. Since the science now proves definitively that pure organics like poultry manure grow vastly superior, healthier, and higher-yielding food, how can we innovate to make it economically viable? What systemic changes, supply chain improvements, or agricultural innovations do we need to make so that the absolute best option for the plant and the environment is also the absolute best option for the farmer's wallet? That is the real challenge ahead of us. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this sparks some big ideas the next time you look at the food on your plate.